Bush today has plenty of critics at home and abroad, but few come close to Hugo Chavez, the president of Venezuela. He's called President Bush a corpse, a devil, and a terrorist. Of course, many people call Chavez himself a destructive menace. He rarely grants interviews, but this should come as no surprise. Barbara Walters got one. And you've just come back from Venezuela, where 2 days ago you got this exclusive interview. What's he like?
Well, in person, he's really very warm and friendly. Of course, he says that the United States is making a devil of him. You'll see why, but then again, he invites it with his name-calling.
George W. Bush. You are a donkey, Mr. Bush.
Hugo Chavez has had a lot of practice calling George Bush names. At the UN, Chavez labeled him a devil.
El diablo, diablo, diablo.
His rhetoric is rooted in his politics and in his background. He grew up poor and powerless. Socialism, he now believes, can cure the ills and poverty of Latin America. That revolutionary torch was essentially passed to him by his friend and mentor, Fidel Castro. Chavez first tried for power in Venezuela by leading a military coup in 1992. He failed, wound up in prison, but eventually made it to the presidential palace legitimately in the 1998 election. He rules a country of contrasts. Venezuela has astonishing wealth and an abundance of oil, while almost half of its citizens live in poverty. The wealthy in Caracas hide behind high walls and barbed wire. They feel threatened, so much so that some of their children talk of leaving the country. So, do you think that Mr. Chavez is good for the poor, but bad for you?
No, it's bad for everyone. With the policies that Chavez has taken, has become a little bit more radical, and maybe, in my opinion, in maybe a year or two, we'll have to all leave.
Think you may have to leave?
Yes.
Chavez says private property is safe, but he's already nationalized some major corporations. He's also turned oil into a propaganda weapon in the U.S.
You know, I had a lot of cold days in my apartment.
Help is on the way. Heating oil at 40% off from our friends in Venezuela at Citgo.
Venezuela's state-owned Citgo is making affordable fuel available to hundreds of thousands of low-income Americans.
I thank Venezuela for what they do for the poor here. ¿Cómo están, muchachos? ¿Qué tal? Hola.
Hugo Chavez is 52. Although most often dressed in his revolutionary red, he was statesmanlike in a navy blue suit when we met in the presidential palace. There was no shouting and little rhetoric, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have strong opinions. Mr. President, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, how would you rate President Bush's visit to Latin America? What number?
1.
1.
Siendo generoso.
1 because I am generous, because it could be -5.
As I talk with you, you are a very dignified man. But we have heard you call the President of the United States a devil, a donkey, a drunk, a liar, a coward, a murderer. What does all this name-calling accomplish?
Sí, lo llamé diablo.
Yes, I called him a devil in the United Nations. That's true. In another occasion, I said that he was a donkey just because I think that he is very ignorant about the things that are actually happening in Latin America and the world. If that is an excess on my side, I accept. And I might apologize. But who is causing more harm? Do I cause any harm because I call him a devil? He bombs people, villages, and he invades nations. Fortunately, he will not remain in office for long.
Yo le ganaría a Bush.
I would win an election campaign against Bush if I were an American, of course, if I were a U.S. citizen.
If you went there now and ran, you could win the election, you think?
Si yo fuese Hugo Chavez.
If I were Hugo Chavez instead of Hugo Chavez, if I were a politician in the United States, I could win an election against Bush.
La línea mía es la línea del humanismo.
My line is humanism, respect for human rights. And I think that's what most U.S. citizens want. I'm positive that's what they want. George Bush does not struggle for this. He struggles and fights for other things.
You have accused the U.S. government of trying to assassinate you.
Está la CIA.
It is the CIA and some right-wing people here in Venezuela who believe that the only way they can control the revolution's impact on Latin America is to assassinate me. And I have said, if something happens to me, if I get killed, the President of the United States should be held responsible.
Venezuela elected you to a second term. They would have to amend the Constitution for you to run for a third term. You want them to do that?
Sí.
Yes?
Sí. Nosotros estamos proponiendo.
And we want to make an amendment to the Constitution to have an indefinite election.
Pero uno de los principios fundamentales.
But one of the basic principles is that if you want to eliminate poverty, you have to empower the impoverished people. It would be so nice if you could go to the barrios in Caracas and meet the people of the community council, and you will see democracy acting here.
We did go. This is Santa Cruz del Este, a poor neighborhood with houses stacked one atop the other. Gladys Garcia lives in a spare but immaculate apartment here. The bedroom? With her mother and brother.
I've seen a lot of changes with President Chavez.
Since Mr. Chavez, you have running water.
Desde que el presidente está, ustedes empezaron a tener agua corriente.
Yeah, so you can do your laundry. Did you have toilets?
¿Tenían posetas?
Sí. Yeah, but you could not flush.
No, they carry the water.
Carry the water. You see her face? There's pride and a welcoming spirit here. Walking the newly paved streets is safe, at least in daylight. But that's not true in much of Caracas. Violent crime in this city is rampant. Chavez blames it on the poverty he is trying to eliminate. His efforts are financed by a bullish market for Venezuela's chief natural resource. The running water here was paid for by free-flowing oil. I would like to talk about oil. Venezuela, of course, is the fourth largest supplier of oil to the United States. Are there any circumstances in which you would cut off your oil to the U.S.?
There is no intention to reduce or eliminate that supply. But we have said in case of any other aggression by the U.S. administration, we would cut this oil supply. But we expect this not to happen.
I want to ask some questions about your life. Would you like some coffee first?
I drink a lot of coffee, beyond any medical recommendation. More than 20 cups a day.
Pero soy capaz de dejarlo.
But if I had to quit it, I would quit it. As well as I have quit so many intimate things.
Uno dejó el hogar.
I've left my home. My kids, I see them every now and then. I left what is dearest to me, you know. I had to abandon them. I do not regret it because my life is devoted to the poor of the earth.
You are not married now. Do you want to marry, or are you married to the revolution?
Es muy difícil casarse.
It is very hard to be married. I have been married twice.
Pero claro, tengo aquí mi corazón.
But I've got a heart here. I've also got blood running through my veins, you know.
You, Mr. President, do not have the best reputation in our country. You know that yourself. What's the biggest misconception about you?
I was speaking once with a lady in the United States, and she asked me, "Why are you an enemy of the United States?" I said, "Why do you think that I am an enemy of the United States?" "Well, I have read the papers. I have seen your picture with Saddam Hussein, with Fidel Castro, and with Muammar Gaddafi."
Fidel es mi amigo.
I said, "Well, Fidel is my friend. Hussein, well, I went to Iraq and I met him in a matter of state, but maybe you have never seen my picture with John Paul II, the Pope. The 2 times I visited him."
O mis fotos con Bill Clinton.
All my pictures with Clinton, both times we met.
Algunas líneas mediáticas.
They only published the pictures to demonize Hugo Chavez. I haven't caused any harm to the people in the United States. What could I do against the U.S. people, or against any people of the world? We just want to be friends, and we want to extend our helping hand. That's all.
Mr. President, I know you speak a little English. Yes? A little bit? Would you give a message to the American people in English?
I'll try. I will try. Yes, to the people of the United States, all the women, all the men, we, Venezuelan people, love you. I want to be your brothers. I love very much a great leader of you, Martin Luther King, is my leader. You know, he said once, he said, I have a dream. His dream, Martin Luther King's dream, is your dream, is our dream, is my dream. Thank you very much.